Hey, how you doing? It's Clayton Teeney from the First Home Buyer Club. 100 lessons in 100 days, day 43, lesson 43. So this lesson today is thanks to Chris and Vanessa that sent in the message last night asking me a few more questions in regards to what other concerns do they need to worry about when building their own home or buying their first home. So I actually wrote up 14. I know I said in here 13, but as I was writing, I discovered another one just before I clicked the button. So here it is. Point number one, companies that offer double the grants, 50K worth of free money and all those over-the-top incentives. You're not getting free money, right? Think about this. Have you ever given a random person even $1,000 or $2,000? Like, when you start to think about it, who would in their right mind give you $20,000, $25,000, $30,000, $15,000? I seen one today as much as $25,000 extra on top. What they're doing is, if it costs this much to build, they're adding it on top. But here's the thing, that $25,000 that you think you're getting for free that's now added on the price, by the time you start to pay it off at the end of the mortgage, you're probably going to pay off maybe $35,000 to $40,000. So you thought you were getting free money, which, matter of fact, is actually costing you like 35 to 40 grand. The second one that I've noticed lately, and I get a lot of questions with, is the big billboard signs, homes from, and a ridiculously low price, like homes from 120,000, 140,000, 150,000. When everyone else is costing, like, depending on the house, another $50,000 to $80,000 to build the same home. Is that not alarm bells? Like, when you think about it, they're not actually including everything in it. And it's afterwards, or more to the point, once they've suckered you in, that's when they start to really increase the prices. The other thing you need to be concerned about with bigger builders is they'll do the promotions like that you need to deposit that day or that week in order to get whatever they're giving you, telling you they're giving you $5,000 worth of upgrades when it's not upgrades, right? It's just what you would have expected normally, but you got to deposit the $1,500 or the $2,000. Now, if you aren't working with someone like ourselves at First Home Buyer Club or directly with a mortgage broker before, the concern that you may have if you put down $1,500 or $2,000 to start on the working drawings and soil tests and survey plans and lock in that deal is that for some reason you find out you had a mobile phone in WA when you've never lived there and got bad credit as a result of it and you can't get your home. Now you have the most expensive $2,000 paperwork you'll ever get in your life, right? Make sure that you're aware of these things up front. Make sure you're prepared. And probably don't jump straight in just because they're giving a today only special. Point number 4, and this one is one I hear a lot, is a 30-year mortgage. Now, when I say this is a scam, obviously when you purchase a home, it will be set up over 30 years. What I feel is a scam is if you don't use strategies to pay off the home faster and give the bank all your money, right? Because over the term of a mortgage, you'll nearly double the amount you give back. At the moment with interest rates, you actually probably only give around 60 to 70% back. So if you borrowed $400,000, you'd probably pay back somewhere in the vicinity of $640,000 to $680,000, but it's still a lot of money, right? Something as simple as $100 a week could knock off around 9 years off your mortgage you're up to, and probably save you somewhere in the vicinity of $80,000 to $90,000. A very huge saving for such a small little amount of effort. Point number 5. The display home traps. I spoke about it yesterday a little bit, and I'll talk about it a little bit more today. So, the funny thing, you walk through those homes, they look amazing. I've walked through them sometimes, and I remember the first time I walked through it. I walked through his home. I can't remember who the builder was, just to check it out and understand the level of homes and inclusions. And whatever the house was, it was so cheap. The sign said, this home's $200,000 and $42 or whatever it was, and it had like these massive raised ceilings with rake ceilings and like windows in the ceiling coming out, and it was amazing. Long story short, when I pulled the agent aside afterwards and said, look, this is a very impressive home. For $200,000, it's a steal. How are you guys building them so cheap? And the salesperson replied to me, oh no, this isn't 200,000 as you see it. There's a fair few upgrades and things inside it. Now the problem is, especially if you're going through display homes to look for your next home, and you find someone, you're like, man, that's the house for us. It costs $200,000, and you work all your budget off it, and then find out that you've got to pay another $80,000, you're going to be left short-handed, right? So just be aware of that up front. All right, the point number 6, owning a home is unaffordable. So owning a really expensive home that's outside your budget, yes, that's correct, that's unaffordable. So what you firstly need to do is work through your budget. If you're not working through with a professional, and we always at First Home Buyer Club recommend mortgage brokers, because they do great work, they're hard workers, and they prep a lot up front. But if you're not working with a mortgage broker or talking to someone that actually knows what they're talking about in relation to your current spending, your current savings, and what you're paying in rent, doesn't mean you should go out and buy the most expensive home that the bank said you could borrow, right? Because it's outside of your budget. It just means that you're not going to be able to live life to the terms that you want to live, because all your money is just getting sucked up by the mortgage. So I would always say, look at your finances before you assess where you want to buy, and make sure that it is affordable within your budget. And if it's not, retweak the budget and then come back again. All right, point number 7, buying a house off emotion and not logic. So here's the thing, especially with building a home, is that not one builder is really locked into a certain look, right? So really there's only so many ways you can design a home, especially when you're getting on those 12.5 and 13 meter wide blocks, right? Most builders will have a lot of similar designs, like the one you may have seen on the internet or in the brochure. Doesn't mean just because you've seen it somewhere else that they're the people that are right for you, right? So you got to work through the inclusions list, what you want in a home, and see how it all matches to make sure if it's the right deal for you. All right, point number 8. All house and land packages are in new suburbs, and they're tiny, and you can hear the people next door farting, right? So here's the thing. Just because you build a new home doesn't mean you're locked into some really tiny block in a suburb that's so far out of town that you'd need to actually fill up fuel every time you come in into work, right? Wherever there's land available, you can build your home, and you don't need to build in a new suburb or new subdivision just to get all the grants that are associated with you owning your own home. Look around. Look for the areas that you want to live, what's around in those areas, schools, public transport, shops, access to the highways, all the things that you need to live life and be suitable for your family, and then make the decisions around that, right? Point number 9, Eddie the Expert. And you know what amazes me about Eddie the Expert is most of the time they don't even own a home, right? Yet they've made up these huge numbers that are going to cost to own, and how it's going to be unaffordable, and all the issues that they have made up in their head, and then they try and push it on to everyone else, right? And so I would recommend that you do the right research yourself and understand it, right? It's funny, I hear some comments on our Facebook page where rates, water and insurance going to cost like $500 a week, and that's without the hidden costs and all these different stories like that. Like, think about it, and it's funny because when you buy a car, you've got to pay for rego and servicing and tyres. But when you buy a house, it's a scam if anything else is on top. Understand these numbers. You jump on Google, you can find out all the numbers. What are council rates? What's the cheapest insurances? Especially if you bundle all your insurances too, it's going to save you a lot of money. And then how much these things are going to cost. over the year divided by 52, and that's how much you need a lot each week to cover all your bills, and you'll be safe. But generally speaking, you probably pay somewhere in the vicinity of maybe $70 or $80 a week to cover all those things if you get the right insurances, all the rest. So it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg on that. And I always tell everyone, look, you need whatever you decide to purchase. If it's a house, townhouse, unit, not that I love units, right? Everyone knows that. But whatever you purchase, think about how much you're paying in rent and how much you have the ability to save on top. And that's a rough estimate of where you should be looking, right? So if you're renting a home $500 a week and you're saving $500 a week, and again, I don't want you to go to your maximum, because the cheaper your home is, the faster you can put extra money in the offset account and pay it off faster, give you more choices in life, which money gives choices, right? But I would always say allow at least a $200 buffer on top of whatever you rent, and that's a good vicinity of where you should be purchasing at the top end. Anything above that, you sort of really need to watch your budget and make sure that's all right for you. Point number 10, cost plus contracts. This is a massive one when looking at purchasing your own home, right? These cost plus contracts, it's really like opening the floodgates for the builder to just be able to send you so many variations to build up the cost afterwards and collect more money out of you. So things like turfing, landscaping, letterbox, driveway, the actual quality of the carpets, the tiles. If these things, if there's only an allowance, and sometimes you might see through a build contract, they've got $1,000 allowance for fencing, $1,000 allowance for turfing. They've only allocated a certain money for all the fixtures inside, and all of a sudden you start racking up $5, $10, $15, maybe $20,000 in upgrades just to get what you expected was standard before. Stay away from cost plus contracts unless you have the right advice and someone that can look over it and knows what they're talking about, right? But for me personally, I would suggest you always get a fixed price contract, because you know what it is up front and you don't have to stress about a massive variation partway through just to cover what you thought was included. All right, point number 11. All incentives, grants are just added on to the developers' prices of land and the build. That's not correct, right? So just because the home builder boosts come out, it doesn't mean that automatically the builders and the developers have just added 25,000. Because here's the thing, no matter what you purchase, the bank's still going to send a valuer out there to value that house and land if it was complete, and try and figure out in a fire sale tomorrow, would they get all their money back for that house if they needed to take it off you. So in that circumstance, it needs to be in level with everywhere else. And all of a sudden, if the developer and the builder is just whacked on 25,000 each, this is way out of the ballpark of everywhere else, right? Obviously, shop around, be smart where you're looking, smart where you're buying, understand what you want. But then on top of that, don't just think, because everyone says it, that they're just going to automatically add the money on top, so you better wait another 12 to 24 months to get those, get the deals afterwards. Point number 13. Cash unconditional unregistered options. So this is really important with units and townhouses. With some land, when it's like 6 or 12 months on, there's certain developers every so often that want to do it. I would highly recommend that you don't do a cash unconditional contract when you sign it. So what that means is that you're signing the contract and waiving your finance period on the basis that you'll get finance next year. Now, especially with units and townhouses, obviously there's a fair markup on them. And from time to time, the valuations when the bank come out, they can't value them onto the dollar. So the problem is, like, the valuer goes out and says that $500,000 unit that you purchase is only worth 470. It means you've got to come up with another 30 grand to cover that shortfall. And if you don't, you'll be penalised for signing the unconditional contract, and legally the developer can just make you purchase that contract anyway, right? So there's a lot of money you could lose. I would always be wary, especially with unregistered land, townhouses, units, that don't come into play for another 12 to 18 months because it's a massive gap of time that you've got to worry about and hope things just work, right? So just be very wary of that, especially if you haven't seen a mortgage broker or a bank direct to understand exactly what you could buy, because you may not have been in a position to buy that anyway, and now you're just going to lose all your money and the developer may take you to court in regards to their losses. And the last point, point number 14, and this is referred to more agents with just single blocks of land, but we find it a lot now, obviously outside of right now, because it is busy in the market for first home buyers and clients that are wanting to build. What we find is real estate agents, they always talk about the buyer that just come 24 hours later is about to put in an offer. Don't get scared into hustled up into your offer without doing the right due diligence yourself and making sure it's the right deal for you, right? So I wouldn't say wait a month or 2 months before you make a decision, but don't just get scared into making offers straight away and increasing the prices just because you were told that magically that block that sat on the market for 6 months has now just found a buyer that's going to put in an offer tomorrow. All right, guys. Well, I hope you got a bit out of today's session, the first home buyer scams and what you need to look out for. Have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, bye.